Mr. Speaker, also a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I found the gentleman's comments from Arlington interesting because I actually planned on speaking on that topic today. And basically, I want to talk about a key decision this House is going to make this week, and that is on the Senate budget. And if I could have my Vanna White stand up, I don't have a sieve or any sand, but I do have my nice chart. And it's entitled A Tale of Two Budgets. And if you'll look, you'll see the House of Delegates in green, fiscally responsible, structural deficit $20 million, in the State Senate, a culture of spending, structural deficit $315.9 million. This afternoon, the House will have a presentation, a side-by-side of both budgets. And I can sort of boil it down to you, the differences in one word, and that is the word spending. The Senate really does have a culture of spending, especially using one-time savings to fund ongoing programs. The House took a different approach. We scrutinized every program, and we basically said that we simply were not going to have a structurally unbalanced budget. But I do want to address the one major increase we did make, and I think it very much speaks to the gentleman from Arlington, and that is 100 ID waiver slots targeted to discharges at Central Virginia Training Center and Southside Virginia Training Center, a total of 375 ID waiver slots and 270 DD waiver slots. Now let's compare that to the Senate. One area they did not spend in. I mean, they spent on Big Bird. They're going to give us new digs as far as the Capitol goes. But the one thing they didn't do, unbelievably, that was ID waivers. And this is not the first time. If you look historically over the last 4 or 5 years, I'm proud to say, with bipartisan support, we have increased waiver slots 2,900. But we should have increased them a lot more. And the reason we haven't is generally the House puts them in, the Senate doesn't, and generally the compromise is some way halfway. So I think that's extremely important. And let me go to that DOJ, that Department of Justice report on February 10th. They had 6 key points, but their major point was on ID waivers. And here's what they said. The Commonwealth's failure to use resources available to expand community-based services and its misalignment of resources that prioritizes investment in institutions rather than in community-based services is a major problem. And I'm going to agree with the gentleman. I think that when that item comes up on the floor, I hope both sides will stand up and talk about how crucial it is that we do the 100 waiver slots. And I'll be blunt, we're going to have to do more than that. That's not going to be acceptable. But let's get back to the culture of spending. This chart, once again, clearly shows the difference in the two houses. And let's look, basically, it's what's going to happen is if you adopt the Senate budget, you're basically saying that we're going to need 2% more revenue off the bat in the next biennium just to fund that $315 million. Now remember, in the next budget cycle, you've got K-12 re-benchmarking, you've got Medicaid that grows tremendously, and then you've got things like the Rainy Day Fund. And let's look at that one, for example. The Rainy Day Fund, if you look at the House, $64 million. If you look at the Senate, $20 million. And if you recall, we did $50 million last year. The House budget gets you halfway there on Rainy Day Fund. The Senate budget is a pittance. State debt. The gentleman talked about state debt, which I thought was interesting. If you look once again at the House budget, we pulled out about $117 million for projects. The Senate added $633 million. They've actually eaten up all the debt capacity in 2013 with that $633 million figure. And so as we talk about debt, the House budget is clearly better. The accelerated sales tax, something your businesses have told you over and over to do, and we all recognize we've got to do, is eliminate, frankly, that gimmick that we did in the budget. If you look at the House budget, we basically have eliminated the accelerated sales tax for $50 million and below. That's 98% of your retailers. Only 2% left, $111 million. The Senate, nothing. And this isn't a luxury. As a matter of fact, we've committed in 2013, if you look at the budget language, that we're going to fix that. And so if you look at all 4 of these together, you'll see that the proof is the House budget is more structurally sound than the Senate budget. Let me conclude. We've heard a lot of rhetoric about the message voters were sending this past November. And to me, the message was clear. Get spending under control. We finally see that message, believe it or not, being taken to heart north of the Potomac. They're actually talking about cutting. And I would say especially the House Republicans. Wouldn't it be ironic if Virginia, one of the best managed states, went in the opposite direction? If we adopt the Senate budget on Wednesday, that's exactly what we'll be doing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.